So messaging really forces you to distill what you do into kind of customer need. And I find way too often what companies, what founders do is they come from like a very narrow thing. I'll be amazing at this, whatever sort of, open source library that does, codifies whatever X as code, in something, and it'll be superb. But they love the technology or AI or crypto or whatever, and they don't sort of translate that into sort of a customer need. And on the flip side, you see people saying, I'll be a platform. I just had a conversation with actually an investment of mine that started by saying, we are the most flexible platform for, this and this in finance. We're in beta. I said, well, like that just does not work, And so I think what messaging does is it helps you.
Why does that not work for people who don't understand that?
Well, it's because you basically underappreciate. On one hand, if you're sort of too narrow, that you have to expand it to the use case, to the need of the customer, and understand their experience end to end. And sometimes, even if you only provide a portion of it, they don't have a solution for all the rest of it, and you're not going to succeed. So you have to think about their entire use case. What is the value proposition that you want to offer them? What is the problem that you want to solve? And similarly, from the platform perspective, people underappreciate the complexity. But once again, they think that they care about their tech. They care about how we'll build that. And my favorite sort of statement to tell founders is nobody cares about your product. They care about the problem that you're solving for them. And so why are you talking about your product all the time? Like you should really lead with what is the pain, what is the problem that you're approaching. And so messaging is a forcing function to, first of all, understand what is the value proposition that you have. What is it that you are doing for a customer? It has natural brevity constraints, like it has to be short. And so you have to distill it. You can say, I do this and this and this and this and this. You don't need to be kind of a messaging expert to know that doesn't work. And so you have to naturally prioritize. It's a great forcing function. And once you do that, I think people perceive messaging as, I already know what I'm doing, and now I'm just dumbing it down or sort of simplifying it for the world. But it's not. You're actually simplifying it for yourself. You are focusing yourself. If you know that you are solving a problem, like for a user, you'll end up building a different product. I can give an example from Snyk. So Snyk's ethos was always, developer first security. That was first. That was sort of who we are. And then open source security was our sort of, the first product to market. And both were needed for us to be able to succeed in the market. But the ordering of them was very important. The primary problem we're sort of addressing for companies is that developers were not embracing their security solution. And so that was the problem. And our thesis was always like, it started from use open source, stay secure. And it evolved minimally to develop fast, stay secure, which was the core. But it always focuses on like the thing that you want to do as an organization. And then how do we help you address it?
How often should it change?
Well, I think messaging naturally evolves. There's just the practicality of getting better at saying the same thing, and so if you find yourself being on a call and saying, well, I like phrasing it this way, although on the website I say that way, maybe you should change what's on the website. The second thing that happens is your product evolves, and so your value proposition, starts from something a bit maybe more narrow, maybe it shifted, maybe it expanded, and so your sort of messaging evolves. So for instance, for Snyk, going indeed from, use open source, stay secure to develop fast, stay secure, the messaging evolves. But then also the market evolves and changes, and that's maybe over a longer horizon. I think a good example of that, again, in sort of Snyk world is at the beginning of it, we had to convince people that they should engage developers, that developers can and will own security. And today, I think a lot of that is sort of accepted. And now the conversation and therefore the messaging, the problem they have is more, well, how do I do that? How do I scale that? And so the messaging has to adapt.
The challenge, and the biggest challenge I see, is one of kind of horizontal product marketing or messaging, which is when you are a Notion, when you are a Retool, when you serve such a breadth of use cases, how do you effectively message and product market? What would be your advice to founders who actually serve a very broad customer base, from dentists to accountants to developers, with a very horizontal tool?
Well, you have to choose. You can't be everything to everyone, or you'll be kind of pretty crap at all of it. Your platform can have a vision, have an aspiration of being everything to everyone, but it has to have a specific subset of users, a subset of the sort of the market for which you're amazing at the beginning. And there's a variety of reasons for it. On the product itself, it's because almost all of these problems are more complicated than you think they are. So as you unravel it, and as you kind of really think about the customer's entire use case, then you learn that there's a lot more that they need to build. But even beyond the product, it has a go-to-market element to it. You want to find a group of people that talk to one another. You don't that's the whole idea of kind of getting a certain flywheel is, you get a certain momentum. So if you're only in the, Node.js ecosystem technologically, then, that community, they talk about you. You're at an event, you hear about it from multiple people. A person that moves from one company to another brings you along. But that's also true for HR software, and HR leaders talk to one another. It's true for sort of, finance. It's true for all of those. And so you have to pick a slice, be amazing at it, and evolve from it. And that piece needs to be sort of big enough and small enough, right? It needs to be big enough to care, that it can feed you for a while, that it can be an important enough anchor, that it can be a good stepping stone for adjacencies as you expand. But it needs to be small enough that you can make it to the top, that you can become a force kind of within that community.